Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump to my database manager in order to create the table. I'm using a program called SQL Pro, that's what you see here, but you could easily use something like PHP Admin, which is web-based, or another program called Navicat, which I've heard good things about too. So on this left-hand side, we have a list of the tables, and then on the right-hand side, we have either the structure of the table, or we can select content to view the content as well. So what we're going to do is create a new table called trails_history. So I'm going to click the little plus sign here, and we're going to fill in a table name, Trails History, and then we're going to add it. All right, now we have a blank table. Now we can add columns. By default, SQL Pro adds a field for the ID, and I like this ID, but I'm going to change the ID column name in order to match up with our Trails module. So I'm going to call it THID for Trail History ID. We're going to keep the type int and the length the same. The only thing we're actually going to change here is that we're going to set it as the primary key. So first of all, we're going to set it to auto increment. And then SQL Pro will automatically ask us to add a primary key to this field. And we're going to go ahead and do that. You'll have to do that manually if you use a program like PHPMyAdmin. And then let's go ahead and keep adding fields. So we need a field for the time that the user visited a page. So we're going to go ahead and call that timestamp. And we're going to give that a type of int. We're going to add a field for path. So this is going to be the path of the page that's visited. We want to make sure that we get the entire path. So we're going to give this a type of text so it's nice and long. Next, we need to be able to store the title. So I'm going to add a title column. And we'll give it a length of a type of varchar and a length of 255. We're going to store the session ID, which again is the unique identifier for each user for a particular session. And we're going to call it SID because this is what it's called in the users table. We're going to give it a varchar type, and we're going to set the length to 128. Sometimes session IDs will be shorter, but we want to make it a little bit longer just in case the server stores session IDs in a unique way. And then we're going to set the UID to int. We want to store the user ID if the user has an account already. So the idea here is that we create a unique identifier for the history item. We then store the time that the user visited the page, as well as the path and the title. And then we store some information about the user. We store the session ID, which anonymous users may or may not have, but we can make sure that an anonymous user has it by setting a value in the session variable, and we'll cover that as we go through the code. And then the UID for the user ID if the user has an account. Most people will find this process easier than using a schema directly. So from here, what we can do is take this database table and convert it into a schema using the schema module. Before we do that, we need to go ahead and set up our install file.